Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. Right, so on today's podcast, I have Hiten Sonpal, who is the head of green finance. That's going to be really hard for me not to say finance. Green finance at MHA MacIntyre Hudson. Now, thank you ever so much for joining me, Hiten. We've met a few times, haven't we?
Yeah, brilliant to be here as well. And thank you for the invite, Liz.
Hey, no, it's great. And it was so lovely because you hosted the EV Cafe's partner day, didn't you, in London a couple of months ago now. I was amazed at the building. I was just, oh my God, look at this. This is just beautiful. But it was such a fantastic day and it was great. It was great to meet you there. And we've met a couple of times since, haven't we?
Absolutely. I mean, you're not the only one that mentioned about the building. I mean, I see it every day, so I don't think it's a big thing. But everyone was fascinated about the lifts, to be honest with you.
Well, that was it. Yeah, it was the intuitive lifts, and it was kind of like, right, okay, you get a little fob, don't you, and it tells you which floor you need to go to. There's none of this having to go to first floor, second floor, third floor lingerie. There was none of that, was there? It was brilliant.
Very, very simple and slick. But no, it was brilliant to see you there at the sponsor day, and it was just great to just have everybody in a room together as opposed to on a Teams call or a Zoom call or whatever it is.
As we had for a little while, didn't we? For sure.
We sure did.
So you're head of green finance at MHA MacIntyre Hudson. Previously, you were the director of Future Mobility Group at NatWest. And before that, you were head of specialist sectors at Lombard. And that was a long time, wasn't it? That was 21 years. So give me a little bit of your background. So what were you doing at Lombard, and how did you move? How did you move through to get to where you are now? Why MHA as well?
Well, man and boy at the bank. So Lombard is the asset finance arm for the NatWest Group.
Right.
Started as a rookie there, moved my way up the food chain, working with different types of clients. As you move up, you go to larger clients. Mm-hmm. I think my career changed back in 2010 when I got the opportunity to go and work in a niche market in sustainability. And it wasn't something that was kind of on my radar, but it sounded very interesting. And we had a brilliant team around us. And we were fortunate to provide funding at the time to one of the first aggregators. It's a business that goes out and puts free solar panels on domestic homes.
Okay.
Backed against the government subsidies, which was called the feed-in tariff back in those days.
Yes, of course.
And we grew that business, and then we went out and started educating our own customers about renewables and energy efficiency, and it was just unbelievable. Businesses really saw the value in us talking to them, because we weren't selling any technologies. Mm-hmm. It was very much, we're a finance company, we want to lend you the money, but if we can educate you and give you something to think about which could add value to your business and then help you at the end of it with finance, then that's absolutely a win-win for us. So continue doing that, and then I was given the opportunity to head up a team which covered off renewables, aviation and marine. I think we were just balancing the carbon emissions on that really, with all the emissions from the aviation and marine sector. Which I did that for 4 years with a team across the UK. And then when our new CEO, Alison Rose, came into play, she made climate as one of her key pillars of the bank and focuses, which was fantastic because I was barking on about it since 2010, which is great. And that's when the Future Mobility Group was introduced, where the bank saw this as a huge market of growth, and for us to really focus on getting ahead of the curve and making sure that we are ready for the market and we can create opportunities and procedures to support this transition. And that's how I actually met the EV Cafe as well, Liz.
I do know there's a story, isn't there? There is a
There are,
story.
yeah. It's a very small community. Everybody gets to know everyone, and that's kind of how the EV Cafe came on the radar. And part of the Future Mobility Group, we wanted to try and help that transition, and I was the lead on creating the partnership between NatWest and Octopus Energy,
Oh,
where we
right.
we provided a partnership where clients could come to the bank and get a charge point, solar panels on their roofs, battery storage, and an energy tariff as well, all under one roof. So we created that proposition with Octopus, which was the first in the market for a bank and an energy provider to put something like that together.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness.
So yeah,
So,
it was good. It was great fun as well. Octopus are a brilliant business, and
yes.
it was really good to kind of just see their um, forward thinking. Not just it's if it doesn't fit in this box, we don't want to do it. They were very
Mm,
open to being, you know, thinking outside the box. I would say, happy
yes.
to work
Yeah.
with us and create something that's going to be value added for our clients and the market as well. And it was just, yeah, it was good fun to create something like that.
Fantastic. So what size clients were you kind of dealing with them? Were they all enterprise kind of corporates?
No, no. So it was. So we initially started the project to look at SMEs, mid corporates, and large corporates as well.
Hmm.
But then we saw an opportunity to work with our consumer market as well, our retail bank,
Mm,
of how we can link up. So if you're a personal customer of the NatWest Group, you could also get a charge point through this initiative.
crikey.
And again, just supporting businesses and individuals to get that transition. Because, like anything, there's so many chargers out there. Where do you go? It's very, very confusing. And I mean, we are living and breathing this market, so we understand it. But coming in new, I mean,
Yeah,
I would never have thought in my life to have bought an electric car had I have not been part of the Future Mobility Group.
I bet.
Never,
And
I'd
and
never
this
go
is
back now.
no, exactly. And I mean, and I keep saying this, and probably people are sick of hearing me say this. We are really, really close to getting an EV. I went on another test drive last week with the wonderful people from GridServe, and I've totally narrowed it down to one now. So we
Yeah,
are really, really, really close, and I
fingers
can't
crossed.
wait. Pardon?
Fingers crossed for you, Liz.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so I can totally understand it, and also because of my husband, working as a climate change professor, or professor of climate science, um, the environment's always been really high on our agenda as well. So we wanted to make sure that we were giving something back as well, and doing what we said we're doing on the tin. Do you know what I mean?
The same
So
here. You've got to practice what you're preaching, right? So, we
absolutely.
were out there educating clients on the benefits of going electric. And yes, the range anxiety was there for me as well on the first day. But trust me, after a few days, you just get used to it. You understand the car understands how you drive, and then, everything else is just history after that. It's the best thing.
Yeah.
I've saved a fortune not going into petrol stations and buying chocolates and crisps and whatnot. So for me, it's a huge saving on top of the fuel. I'm even saving on the waistline as well. So
Oh, do you know, I need that. I need that for sure. Honestly, it's really difficult for me to kind of go past a packet of small
yeah,
whispers, and not
I'm
go,
in the
oh,
same boat.
I really fancy them. Shall I buy them for my son? No, I'll eat them myself.
Yeah. So yeah, Future Mobility Group was a brilliant stint for 2 years. Learned a lot, met some brilliant people in the market, and then I had the opportunity to go and work in a new team that was created within the bank,
Mm,
focusing on carbon footprints. So
mhm.
the whole ESG process of scope 1, 2, and 3. So how much emissions does a business actually create? And how do they calculate that, and what do they need to do to reduce that? And I think that really did help, from the technologies to uh, future mobility to then carbon footprints, ESG journeys, all of that has really given me a rounded approach of what I'm
Mm,
doing. I'm working with
mm.
the bank. I mean, I'm in debt to the bank. They've given me a fantastic career. some great opportunities and have helped me develop. But I just felt it was the right time to look at something new, where the bank have got a certain credit profile, and if it fits in this box, we can help. But because I'd done a lot in the market and exposed myself, should I say, to
In the
industry,
nicest way.
in the nicest way, to the industry, I get a lot of people coming to me going, "Here, look, this is what we're doing. What are your thoughts? Is this something you can help?" And it's really painful when you can't help them because you believe in what they're doing, and it's something that I really do see the value of trying to come up with a solution. So that's why MHA came up on the radar as an opportunity, because they're a firm of accountants where they have a variety of areas of expertise. And previously in the bank, I would just look at the actual senior debt funding, so the element that they want to finance. But there is a whole host of other things that businesses need to look at, such as putting a business plan together, putting a financial model together. Some of them may need equity. So our corporate advisory team can provide advice on that and help them raise the equity with the various institutes that we work with. Also, you've got to think about the tax structure. So what is the plan? Have you got an exit strategy in 5 years? Do you want to go public on your company? All of these kind of things have to be thought about. And then I think the cherry on the cake is MHA has a banking and finance team which has access to over 200 lenders. So we have 200 different risk profiles which is suitable for all types of businesses. I won't sit here and say we can lend money to anyone and everyone, but there's a higher probability of providing finance on this side of the fence than there was on the banking side, which is totally understandable. The bank has a different risk profile, and there are a number of financial institutions out there who have the same scenario. They will be a lot more risk averse in some cases, but others they're happy to take more of a risk, and it just depends on their own strategy. So that's the journey, Liz, of where I started. So I mean, MHA is my second job in my whole career.
Oh my gosh.
I've only ever worked for the bank, so you can imagine
Yeah, of course.
it was daunting when I was asked to put a CV together. I was like, I'll have to dust the one out that I did back in 1999.
Oh goodness me. Wow. So you were approached by MHA then?
Yeah, well, I had a number of opportunities to go and work, because of my skill set. I mean, there's a lot of people who have done renewables and climate for 2, maybe 3 years, but there's not many people who have seen the peaks and troughs of the last 12 years. And I think that adds a lot of value. And I mean, you've been on a journey and you've created a brilliant business. I mean, the bank never did any funding in renewables pre-2010. So it was a huge culture shift in us doing what we needed to do to build that confidence and that trust, and then going out to all the bank managers and the frontline staff to educate them, to then help them raise it with their clients. And then it was a snowball effect. Once we got that little speck of snow growing and the ball started growing, it just grew and grew year on year, and it was a great journey to be on.
So for MHA, do you feel kind of you're on a similar journey of education, because obviously you've gone from banking to an accountancy firm who are kind of introducing this level of green finance? Do you feel that that's what you're having to do? You're having to make sure that you've educated everybody within the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, an accountancy firm is a different beast to a bank.
Yeah, absolutely.
An accountancy firm is a professionals business. So they're providing professional services of audit, tax, R&D, whatever it is. A bank is primary focus is to lend money.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So I'm going from a service environment to a lending environment. I'm going from a lending environment to a service environment, and I'm having to change that culture of we can do service and lending. And my theory has always been, if you've got a client that needs 10 services and we're focusing on 2, the other 8 are going out to somebody else where they're generating a revenue from it, when you already have a relationship with this client, and we could service them and provide them with a brilliant service and a solution. I call myself as a concierge for finance.
Love it.
You don't need to do all the work. You just provide the information once to us, and then we will go out to the market and then present you with the various options for you to then make a decision. It doesn't matter to us who you go with. At the end of the day, what meets your criteria and what's best for you.
So what? Okay, excuse. I'm sure other people don't understand this in the same way that I do. It's not right. Can you give me some clarity on the difference between regular finance and green finance and green finance? So from what I understand it, so you're talking about kind of investment in renewables, aren't you, and things like that. So is it are we looking at the whole green finances is just simply investment in kind of that on that side, rather than anything that's to do with oil and gas or anything like that? You tell me.
Yeah. So there's a little bit. I'll probably share some context first, and then I'll come to back to that question, Liz. So the financial sector is evolving significantly, with the UK government now having a net zero target by 2050.
Yes.
Banks, not just banks, but large organisations, I'm talking FTSE 250 businesses, are all getting pressure from the UK government to reduce their emissions and demonstrate, disclosing their climate initiatives and what they're doing as a business. TCFD in effect, yeah? And for me, that has changed the mindset, especially in the banking world. And I've seen it, both from when I was in the NatWest group and also from this side of the fence, where I've now started to see a lot more financial institutions and speaking to them. Now, NatWest is a perfect example, because that's where I worked, and they're going to halve their emissions on their balance sheet by 50% by 2030.
Oh my God. Okay.
Right now, that is no small task. Now, if you've got large businesses, may that be in the oil industry or the aviation, the marine, whatever it could be, you're not going to sit there and go, Mr. Customer, thank you, but you are a high emitter in dirty emissions, so we don't want you to bank with us, so you're going to have to find an alternative arrangement. It's just not going to happen.
No.
It's not right for business.
No.
So the only way that they can meet that requirement is to put the energy and the resources into raising the profile of renewables, climate initiatives, and green finance. So the more you lend, it will then counterbalance the emissions. And more banks are coming out with commitments and targets and initiative. In some cases, it's PR, but I really do hope, that banks are very much keen on driving this agenda, because not only does it help them, but it also helps their clients as well, because education is so important. And you'll meet lots of businesses in this market who are working in their business, not on their business, and that plays a big issue because you don't see the bigger picture. So I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but I wanted to just set the scene on the banks of there is a big drive on green finance. Now, what is green finance versus what is standard finance? Standard finance is just what you and I will know in the banking world. Green finance is very much related to technologies that reduce emissions or improve energy efficiency.
Right.
Now, is there a difference in providing a loan for, I don't know, a piece of plant versus a solar system on a roof? There really isn't, but it's driving. But if we were sitting in a room with a client talking about a piece of plant or machinery, and you've been doing that all your life, it's quite easy to support somebody on that and say, yeah, we do that every day. Don't really need to know the asset. It's a piece of plant, it has a serial number on it. We can provide the funding over a 5, 6, 7 year period, 10% deposit, and the full VAT. We call that off the shelf vanilla funding.
Right. Okay.
Solar, for example, is very different. It's seasonal.
Yes.
It's not based on the sun shining, it's based on daylight hours. So as long as there's daylight hours, so as you know, winter we have shorter days because it goes darker by 3:30, 4 o'clock, and the sun comes out late as well. Whereas in the spring and the summer period, it's longer days, which means power's being generated a lot more.
Yeah.
And the value that we add, and this is where it comes with experience of doing so many transactions, I can sit there with the client and go, I will structure your payment based on the power that you're generating.
Okay.
So autumn and winter, we will keep your payments lower. Spring and summer, we will accelerate your payments, but all in all, you would still pay the same.
Yeah.
If it was £100 a month, over 12 months, that's £1,200.
Yes.
But all I'm doing is I'm just accelerating the payments on the 6 months where the daylight hours are a lot higher.
Yeah, that's good.
As opposed to the other ones.
Yeah.
And again, that then adds value to the customer's cash flow.
Yeah.
It supports the lend, and it gives the client the peace of mind that there aren't going to be periods in the year where they may struggle to meet that requirement and that payment. But let's not forget, when you go to a lender, it's not just about, in the old days there was a subsidy that came in, but the client is actually going to save, hypothetically, let's say £10,000 a month on their energy bills by putting solar in. So we should be taking that £10,000 into consideration to demonstrate affordability, because they've been paying it for the last 2 years anyway.
Yeah.
So if it's gone down, it's no different. It's only improved their cash flow by £10,000. And that's really important. So it's about the value added element of understanding the sector and helping customers get to their destiny a lot sooner, rather than going through all the hoops that they're not aware of, because you can lose credibility in the market if you haven't got all of your ducks in a line before you go to a lender. And we provide a safe environment where clients can come to us, talk to us about what they're trying to do. We can then advise them on what areas they need to still focus on and how we can support them on that. And then once it's ready to go as a perfected proposal, we then go to market to start getting appetite from lenders and talking them through it. And I think that's the key thing, about understanding it and lenders having the initiative to think outside the box and going, you know what, I want to know more about this. I'm seeing more and more opportunities like this, and I want to support these businesses. But there's only one way I can do that, is if I get off my high horse of standard equipment and go, I'm going to come and listen to this and try and understand what the risks are and how we can mitigate it to continue this transition. And charging infrastructure is a key example, Liz. There's so many businesses who want to borrow money, and lenders are finding it very difficult because there isn't a fixed revenue coming out of it, because you can't guarantee 10 people are going to use that charge point every day.
No, exactly.
So it's that thinking and that mentality that we need to change, and it is slowly happening, but just probably not at the pace I'd like it to be.
I was going to say, how do you do that? What is it? What kind of communication with potential lenders do you have to kind of put forward in order for them to kind of start listening? Is it you specifically going to talk to those lenders, because you said you've got about 200 lenders, didn't you? To increase that number, to increase the number of lenders, do you just need to communicate more with people? Do you need to be out there more, kind of talking to people? What is it that you have to do to make that kind of happen?
So I think it was great seeing a lot of the lenders when I joined MHA, and a lot of these are ex-colleagues as well who used to work at the bank as well. So it's very humbling that when they go, it's thank God you've left the bank because we could finally work with you and you're not a competitor anymore.
Right.
So again, there's credibility on that because I've been doing it for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And some lenders who haven't even thought about this stuff could see the value that we could bring. So I do sit with them and educate them on certain things. People will go at different speeds on this journey.
Yeah.
And if you've got someone who can help you through that process, then it's really important. But you have a dozen lenders who understand this market, want to work with you, and are happy to look at, the bigger picture, not just, they can't afford it today, but I know they can't afford it today, but if we lend this to them and everything goes according to plan, this would be a huge business. And we're looking at a charging infrastructure transaction at the moment for about 30 million. And again, it's understanding the technology, the risks. We're getting the manufacturers involved to work on buybacks as well, so they can, have some skin in the game. If we're going to be using their product, and this is a new concept that we're trying to create here, then they've got to have some skin in the game as well. We've got warranties to back up the project. We've got great sites where there's lots of footfall. The due diligence has been done on how many electric vehicles are in that postcode. All of these kind of things. There's a lot of work that goes on in the background before even the project starts to get moving. So it's exciting stuff, but it's rewarding when you see it delivered as well.
I bet. I mean, it sounds. Yeah, it does sound real hard work, but I bet it's just to say. I always talk about people kind of leaving. You're leaving a legacy, aren't you?
Yeah.
This is the stuff that you'll be able to see grow over the years, which is fabulous. So I know the answer to this. I'm going to ask you this question anyway. What makes you different?
What
You
makes
personally.
me different? There's nothing special about me, Liz. Okay, I'm going to
Don't
pull
say
it all
that.
out.
Of course there is.
No, I think the reason why I have a lot of people from my network, from LinkedIn, and the market come to me is I've been in the sector for a very long time, and I've seen all the technologies. I mean, when I talk to my colleagues in MHA and I go, "Oh yeah, we've got a transaction for an anaerobic digestion plant," they just look at me blankly, go, "What the hell's an anaerobic digestion plant?" And also, what works and what doesn't. Where are the pitfalls that we've benefited from seeing in previous technologies, and how do customers, not make the same mistakes? And I think that value, that knowledge, you can't buy it.
No.
And the charging infrastructure customer, again, he goes, "Hey, and you gave me a list of things I needed to do." And that has really helped us make this a very, very strong proposition. And just helping clients just to get to that destination is just brilliant. There'll be slow burners because a lot of these projects are not cookie cutter. It's not like buying a car. Great, £30,000. We'll get that auto approved for you in 2 hours. Just get an invoice and we get it paid out in 24 hours. That's the bread and butter stuff that comes through the business, but it's the larger structure. I like doing the stuff that people don't like doing.
Do you?
Because if I can find a solution for something that's unusual in the market, then every single other business in that same market will knock on your door and say, "Can you do the same for us?" And we did exactly the same thing in the EV subscription market, where we supported one business, but it gave me a reputation of someone who supported that market.
Yes.
And then everybody else knocked on my door and said, "Hey, can we come in?" We don't need to find the business usually finds us.
And that kind of, that word of mouth makes a massive
Credibility,
difference, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get.
Yes.
So, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Yes, I'm the best thing in this market and I'm the only one that can do it." There are some amazing people in this market who have taken the initiative to learn the sector, the technologies, and the way things go, and we need more of them.
Yeah.
Because we can't do it all on our own,
No.
and like you say, it's a collective and collaborative sector that everybody needs to work together to get to the goal of net zero by
Yeah.
2050.
Yeah, and that's the biggest reason for collaboration anyway, isn't it? And it's a bit like, when we all met in London, for the Partners Day for EV Cafe, that it just showed the amount of collaboration there was out there, and it was nice to see, because I've worked in some sectors where you wouldn't be seen dead kind of speaking to one of your competitors, would you? Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? Which is, to me, it's really, really refreshing to see the amount of collaboration and kind of the will and want to do the right thing together as a group. It,
Yeah.
it just seems it's great. It's great to experience, honestly.
I think, like you said, the sponsors day was, I think, the tipping point which demonstrated that there's so many businesses in a room and none of them knew to an element of what each one did and what
Mm,
the synergies were. I mean, we got three businesses who we're talking to within that sponsors day,
right.
where we're trying to work with them and support them as well.
Mm,
And I think it's the power of that collaboration, that teamwork, and knowing what people are doing, where we can add value. I mean, what more could you ask for? And I think it's
exactly.
brilliant what they've done there.
It is. And actually, to be able to network with people like that. I mean, for me, I was humbled being in a room with such amazing people,
Yeah,
and just have been able to actually sit and talk, or stand and talk to people like that. It was fabulous. It
yeah.
really was. I wouldn't. I'm not trying to blow the EV Cafe's trumpet too much, honestly, but I do think that they're doing some fantastic things to actually bring people like us together, and all the people that were in that room. Because there is opportunities for everybody out there. I mean, look at the targets we've got. 2030, 2050. There's a lot of targets to actually fulfill, aren't there? So actually, the more the merrier, I say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we've seen each other a number of times, but we've not had a chance to talk like this, I suppose. But if I said to you, if we're looking at 2030 and 2050, what do you personally, what would you like to have seen happen by those dates? I know we're talking a long time away for 2050, but say 2030, what would you like to see happen by then?
Um, where do I start? Big question that is, Liz.
Mm,
Well, I think, firstly, I don't just think about EVs and charging infrastructure. I look at the whole picture for
yeah.
the UK. I think every single new home that's built in the UK should have solar panels and air source heat pumps as standard. If you don't do
Mm,
that, you shouldn't be allowed to build homes. It's as simple as that.
mm, mm,
Also, all commercial buildings, both new and existing properties, should have solar as a minimum, with LED lighting.
mm.
And, you know, just to go off on a tangent on this, Liz, I still can't believe people don't put LED lighting in. It is the most simplest thing to do, whether it's in your home or your business, because it uses 85% less
Less.
power than a
Yeah.
standard light. And paybacks are usually between 12 and 18 months,
Yeah.
and the lights last between 7 and 10 years.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I
Exactly. They're
mean,
not like the old ones, are they? That just blew when they felt
yeah,
like it.
trust me, I get annoyed changing light bulbs, right? So LED was like heaven for me.
Yes.
And it's just a great way of reducing emissions, but also consumption, which means you don't actually need to use as much power. So
Mm,
I think LED and solar should go hand in glove,
yeah.
as a must on commercial properties. Um, the minimum energy efficiency standards regulation, so known as MEES,
Mm,
currently sits at EPC rating, and I know there is talks about it going up, and I think all commercial buildings should have a minimum EPC rating of C or better before 2030. So that's something for me. I believe that the UK government should support more from an EV charging infrastructure. Everyone I speak to, the two big things that come out is planning and grid capacity.
Yes.
What I'm seeing is grid upgrades are killing projects
Yeah, I know.
because of the cost. I mean, I've seen a project where the grid upgrade was more than the overall project cost. Just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
And if you look at where EV vehicle registrations are like a hockey stick hike, and charging infrastructures just slowly going up, there's a big gap between the registrations. So that's kind of the areas that I see. And I think the only final thing, I was at a EV charging infrastructure conference in Berlin in February, and the transport department for Norway was presenting. And the one thing that made me chuckle, which I was blown away that they actually do this, but they are probably the most advanced country in the world on EVs and charging infrastructure.
Okay.
To a point where if you bought a diesel or a petrol vehicle, your picture was on the front page, naming and shaming you that you bought a gas guzzler.
Oh my God.
And they showed us a slide of this guy standing next to his diesel 4x4, and he was on the front page of the Norway News.
Oh my God. Oh, how embarrassing.
I mean, you should really get to that point.
Can you imagine?
So, I appreciate OEMs have got to transition.
Yeah.
Some have moved leaps and bounds to when we started the Future Mobility Group in the bank. The choice is unbelievable. I mean, Fully Charged a few weeks ago showed the new models and the new manufacturers coming out. I mean, I've never heard of some of these, but
No, me neither.
you know, it reminds me, I'm showing my age now, the movies of Back to the Future. I mean,
Yes.
you've got some very futuristic vehicles coming out, and cost needs to come down. And I think that price parity will happen eventually. But I remember we used to do the car allowance, which the government backed, where you got rid of your old vehicles. And if you went into a new one, they gave you something like £3,000, regardless of whether the car was worth that. I think there should be an initiative of, if you want to transition from petrol and diesel to electric,
Yes.
we will give you X thousands of pounds towards that. And I think it will help accelerate it. But like anything, on the flip side of it, the EV registrations are going up anyway. So they're like, well, we don't need to support it because it's going up anyway. Benefit in kind was reduced when it was 0 in 2020. It's at 2% at the moment till 2025.
I'm not sure. Possibly.
So again, that's a huge benefit for salary sacrifice drivers and company vehicles. I mean, I benefited from that while I was at the bank as well. I would never have anticipated to go to electric if it wasn't for that. But the financial saving was huge for people.
And that's what we need, isn't it? We really do need cost savings. You know, there was a programme on the TV last week, and it was about the price of, which electric car should I choose? And what they decided to put on was kind of like £150,000, kind of vehicles that no Joe Public or Joanne Public, would actually be able to afford. And there were 4 of us talking about this in my some friends with the little WhatsApp group, and they were all saying, well, it's going to be some time till we can afford it, and I think that's what everybody's. So there's to me, there's a couple of things people are talking about. There's the price, and there is the network, and there's the I saw a message this morning on a group where somebody was talking in the Telegraph about the fact that bridges might break with the weight of all the electric vehicles, and there was just the negativity. in a way, what you're saying about with the government supporting, there should be some kind of communication strategy that actually communicates the positive side from the
Mm.
government about electric vehicles, not just saying, oh yeah, we're expecting everybody to do this by 2030 or, onwards, or there'll be no manufactured ones, but actually, don't let all this negative press kind of be the only thing that's out there, because people believe what they believe. They don't actually check up on things, do they? I
Yeah.
say to my teenager, we've got teenagers similar ages, haven't we? But I say to my 17-year-old son, I say, if you're reading something, please check it out on a reputable source, rather than just believing that it's real, that it's right, because actually it could just be a load of tut.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I've been driving an EV now for 3 years. And
Mm,
like I said earlier, Liz, yes, I had range anxiety for the first few days.
mm, mm.
But you then adapt to the car, you understand the mileage, how much you can push it. Um, I love the fact that I can charge from home.
Yes.
We have two EVs in the household, a small runaround, which is our local driver, and then we've got one which gives us 300 miles for our longer journeys as well. And it's just phenomenally cheaper to,
Mm,
drive from the Midlands to central London. You don't have to pay congestion charge or the
yeah.
ULEZ. Most cases, there is parking for EV charging in London where you don't have to pay for parking because it's expensive to park in central London. And yeah, I think planning is a little bit. I mean, I drove my car from Leicestershire to Cornwall
Did you?
and I
Goodness.
stopped once.
Yeah, but you would
Um,
do though, wouldn't you? Going to Cornwall, you'd have to
well, I,
stop for a comfort break or a cup of tea or something, wouldn't you?
we stopped at an Ionity charger, so the 350 kilowatt chargers.
Yeah.
And my wife and my daughter went into the service station for a comfort break and just to get some food from the service station.
Hmm.
And that was 11 minutes. And I went from 22% all the way up to 75% in
Yeah.
11 minutes. I mean, that is just unbelievable. That took us back to our destination in Cornwall.
Hmm.
We'd already rang ahead, and they had a charge point as well, so we stayed. So note to any hotels or B&Bs out there: if you haven't got a charge point, EV drivers won't be coming to you. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had a fully charged vehicle every day. So yeah, didn't have any issues. I mean, when we went to Land's End, there was 4 charge points at Land's End. Yeah,
Excellent.
I was really impressed with that because you're at the end of
Tip
the
of the
country. You get the
Yeah.
tip of it, right?
Yeah.
There's nowhere more far to go, nowhere else to go in the middle of nowhere. So the fact that there was charge points there, I was really, really impressed.
Oh, that's fabulous. And like I say, it is, and everybody I've been talking to, it's just a bit of a behaviour change, isn't it? But I'm
Yeah,
saying that it's not necessarily a behaviour change. It's the change of way of change of mindset, because everybody stops unless you're really really in a rush. I mean, personally, health and safety wise, I would never advocate driving 200 miles without one
yeah,
stop. Do you know what I mean? Because actually, you'll be shattered. You probably if you're my age, your bones will be creaking and all sorts. And I don't think it's particularly good for you to do a journey of that length.
right.
Unless you really, really have to in one go, and after, so it's a mindset change. Normally, somebody would stop if they've got kids. They'd stop on the way, wouldn't they? Or even if you go into a business meeting, surely you're not just going to go the whole 200 miles without a stop, even if you've got to be there for a certain time. And actually, if you've got to be there for a certain time, go the night before.
And
Give
I
yourself
think
a bit of a rest.
I, there was one question we always used to raise with clients, and there was a survey I remember
Mm,
that was done in the market, but people always are worried about, oh, the battery's not long, the range is not long
mm,
enough.
mm.
And on average they're about 200 to 250 miles, I think, on average at the moment,
Yes.
for your medium-sized vehicles. But then I asked the question to the individual: how many times do you do a 200-mile journey in a day? Not many. Okay,
Exactly.
so you can get to your destination and back and charge at home in the evening, And if you really needed to do that extra journey, which was longer than 200 miles in a day, most of the major networks is being covered by grid serve anyway now.
Yeah.
So when you think of it that way, yeah, I guess so, but I haven't got half an hour to spend and this, that. But then I always say, I've got 2 electric vehicles which I moved from 2 diesel vehicles, and I'm saving roughly about £5,000 a year on fuel cost
Yeah.
versus
Exactly.
electricity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when your bank balance is improving, trust me, you will make the change. So,
I yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's getting a an Ionic 5, a Hyundai Ionic 5, or Hyundai, should I say, Ionic 5, kind of, I think, in the next 2 or 3 months, and he's they're gonna with his work, so it's on salary sacrifice. So he's actually going to be have it in. He's going to have a charge point installed at home. He's lucky enough to have off road parking, so off street parking. So that's great. He hasn't got solar panels or a battery like we've just had, but he worked it out, and it was going to cost him £380 for a year to charge it. And I was kind of thinking, is he trying to say that's too much? And he went, I can't believe how cheap that is. He said
there you
normally
go.
I'm putting between 80 and £100 in fuel in my car on a monthly basis.
Yeah, yeah, it's not cheap.
And this is the thing that people need to recognize. Yeah, there are things that need tweaking. We do need to increase the EV infrastructure, and make sure that the charge point operators have got, the charge points that are actually working when
Yeah,
rather than broken down, and that that there's plenty of them, and there are plenty of them, because ZapMap will tell you this. Like I say, I just feel it's the communication that needs to kind of be improved to
yeah,
Joe Public, to say, come on, don't just listen to all this rubbish that's going out there, and there might be an odd journalist who'll kind of come up with a negative comment because actually maybe his Jaguar I-Pace or whatever it was that he was driving at the time didn't quite perform how he wanted it, so he's gone back to a regular ICE vehicle. Okay, that's one in however many thousands
yeah.
and millions of people who've got them. So I'm on my orange box now, aren't I? I think
I'm with you.
it's really important to get just reduce that negative Nelly. You know,
Very true. Yeah, I'm
we've
totally
got to.
with you on that. You're preaching to the converted there, Liz.
I know, darling. I know. I'm hoping that there's some unconverted that are actually listening at the moment, or watching when this actually goes out, because you know it is really important. The prices do need to come down, definitely. I do get it. I mean, it's a stretch for stretch for a lot of people, unless you're kind of you've got it through your job.
Correct.
But yeah, if they can push the prices down, I think they're talking about, is it 2027 maybe?
Well, Tesla have already started making reductions on their pricing anyway,
Yeah.
so you know we'll see if that has a knock-on impact on
Apparently
other
it
vehicles.
has. I've just spoken to a company this morning, and they've said since Tesla bringing the price down just before Christmas, it has had ramifications
Brilliant.
through, especially the used EV car market, because
Yeah.
and for us, we don't need a brand new EV. We're just happy to have something that's got a few thousand miles on the clock. If it brings the
Yeah.
price down, then we're happy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're looking at, and that's what they've been saying. So, but
Brilliant.
hopefully by this time, but when this goes out, we should have one. So we should have had it for a little while. So, but listen, right? I want to ask you final question: how do people find you? So if they're looking for green finance, or they're just wanting to talk to you about a few, kind of ideas that they want to punt around a bit, where's the best place to find you?
LinkedIn's probably the best thing, but if you type my name in Google, you'll find me straight away. There's only one Hiten Sonpal, I can assure you on that. But yes, LinkedIn's probably the best place. That will give you a good foundation background of who I am and what I've done in the background. And like anything, Liz, we're here to just support and add value and help you achieve your goals and your opportunities of what you're creating in this exciting market of climate. And if we can play a part in that to support you to get to that end goal, then please feel free to give us a call.
Absolutely. And the website, so it's just if everybody search for MHA MacIntyre Hudson, you should find the website okay. But I will
we
also...
actually went through a brand refresh only, and it went live today, Liz, actually. So it's even simple now. It's www.mha.com.
Excellent. Oh, well, so you don't need all the extra bits then.
Not anymore.
I will make sure that we provide all your links and everything in the show notes when this goes out anyway. So everybody just click on the show notes below the video or below the audio, whatever you're listening to or watching, and then you will be able to find Hiten very easily. But listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think there are so many people that will, we'll need your help over the next few years, and good luck with everything. I think I look forward to seeing you again really soon.
Thank you so much, Liz, for having me today. And fingers crossed. All we can do is just work together and achieve that goal together, right?
Absolutely, we're all there. We all stand together, as Paul McCartney said. Except without a frog chorus, right? So, on that note, I'm going to say thank you again, and to everybody else, I'm going to see you next time. See you later. Bye. You've been watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon, and you'll receive all of our weekly videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.